Hello, good evening to Heilbronn from Berlin. And it's great to be here. I'm the last speaker. It's always an honor and always I hope that I can entertain you a bit. I don't bring music or something. I brought a magazine. If you look at this page here. And when I was 20, somebody would have said to me, one time, you will stand on a TEDx conference and you will tell them that you have been on a Forbes cover and your face was on a Forbes cover one time. I would have never believed this. I would have said to everybody, you're totally crazy, because my life at 20 or 21 was not Forbes worthy. I was a bit disorientated, I had no big plans, and I was not sure what to do. That's how it was. And now today, my talk is founder spirit and innovation. And yeah, the founder spirit was not there at that time. Absolutely not, because I did not grow up in a household of entrepreneurs or so. I grew up also in the south of Germany, close to Stuttgart, in a very normal environment. Well, everything changed. And I think I also talk about innovation tonight. It was about the innovation that came in my mindset. It was not the innovation that I learned in a company. And it was the innovation that made everything possible at the end, what happened there, in order to get on this cover of this Forbes magazine. So when I decided that I tell you my story when I talk about innovation and mindset and founder spirit, that you understand what I mean with this. So I start with 4 chapters of storytelling. So the first chapter is, I was in my early 20s, 2021, studying at university in Tübingen. I studied economy, I studied politics and history. And I did that, but I was not really passionate about it. And I was actually a bit bored and I didn't like it. But, at that time, I grew up in this time where everybody said, you need your path, you need a CV without any breaks. It has to be super straight. And my parents wanted me to do that. Everybody was expecting me to do that. And that's the reason why I decided, okay, I will just keep on going and I will just finish that. And I didn't like it. But I didn't really think so much about it. And then on incident, I met a guy. He was a professional sports guy. And he was really an athlete. And he was telling me at that time that he made his hobby to a job, and he loves it so much. He has joy every day when he works. And I felt really, strange, because I said, I have nothing like this. I have no idea what I can do with my studies, and I don't think that I have a passion for anything. And then he asked me a question. He asked me, Miriam, what would you do if you were truly free? What would you do? And I was a bit I said, first reaction was laugh, but then I thought, I never really thought about this question. It was the first time in my life that I thought about this strange question, because everything till then was in a way, I did it how people expected it to. And then suddenly he asked me that question, and it made something with me. It really opened up something. It opened up a thinking that I would do something different from what I would do today. And I would make decisions that maybe not everybody would like. So I took the decision. Shortly after, I quit university. I went to my parents and said, I'm not going there anymore. I want to travel now. I want to go abroad. I want to see the world. I want to know what my passion is. And they said, are you crazy or what? I said, well, I want to find it out. And then they said, okay, we cut your financial support. Nothing. And I said, okay, I will do it by myself. I will from now on care for myself, and I will do that. And then my father said, okay, then go, do it, and come back with a passion. That was the first chapter of this story. I traveled and I stayed for a whole while, almost 1 year, I was gone. And looking back, this was probably the first, let's say, basis for innovation, because it's the innovation, it starts with questions, with thinking about yourself, with thinking about your job, and also with challenging yourself. In the chapter 2, I came back to Germany and I thought, okay, what's my passion now? I could not really answer that question correctly, because I thought actually my real passion is traveling. I just love it so much. Then I thought, okay, if traveling is my passion, I should really work in the travel industry because that area is probably the one that is most connected to me. Then I did that. I went to get an apprenticeship. I became a travel agent. And I started working in the industry for some years. And I realized that without having a university degree in the German corporate world, it will not work out. I won't make a career. And I felt very stuck. And then I met a company. It was a small Dutch company that wanted to change the world of internet payments. At that time, nobody knew what a fintech was. Nobody even knew what startup was. These terms were not born at that time. We're speaking in the year 2000. It was really this internet payments. I did not even understand what they were doing because at that time nobody was buying something online. It was only maybe Amazon probably sold in Germany 50 books a month or so. It was not something that people thought about. But I met these founders and they had something that was so inspiring to me because they had this passion when they were talking and they had this extremely drive, and it was really something that it really hit me. It really hit me. And I was wishing I would like to have something like this too. And then one of them, he asked me, Miriam, why don't you come work for us? I think you would fit from your character, you would fit in our team. And then this was something, living in Germany, Dutch company, it was all difficulties because leaving this, what you're used to, what everybody expects us to. But my excitement killed all the doubts because I asked myself 2 questions. And I asked this question, you know it from before. So what would I do if I would be totally free? I definitely take the decision and say, I go for this. I go for the challenge and the excitement. And I want to be part of something that is so new that there are no people with experience. So for me, it would be a chance to start over again. And then I changed. I quit my job at Hapag-Lloyd and I entered a completely new world. That was the world of startups 25 years ago. I entered this company and it was for me the first time that I felt what passion at work is. It was the first time that I felt this, that I started loving this job. And it was the environment, it was the speed, it was everything that was there. It was new, it was fun. And we were a team that were just like, it was crazy. And I learned from them. I learned so much because I learned you don't need to know everything by yourself. The most important thing is that you are a team with people that each of us has different skills and different strengths. And these different skills and strengths, they combine each other and they have then the power to achieve everything. This was a super interesting experience for me. And the other interesting experience was that I realized that they had so much excitement and passion for what they were doing that they can cope with any challenge. And my father, he had always something what he said when I was younger. He was always telling me, Miriam, the principles of all possibilities is when you're truly excited and passionate about what you're doing. And this actually became something in my mind. I really thought he's right. And I see this now every day because what they do, this is so amazing. And when you get excited about this, you can do everything. And you know what? I got so excited about payments. And I was dreaming of building an own payments company one day. I was dreaming of building something for the German market because I always thought Germany is big enough. It can have an own company. This kind of founder spirit, it was not there from where I was born, what I did before. It actually started with seeing something. When you see something, that you can really be it. Yeah, so you need to see something in order to be it. Because what you can't see is you can't be what you can't see. It's a nice, let's say, phrase that I thought it was fitting here, right? By the way, these founders of Bibit, they are also today the founders of a company called Adyen. At that time, when they started it in 2006, they asked me, Miriam, don't you want to join? I just had a daughter. My daughter was 1 year old, 1.5. And I said, no, I can't do it. But I always had this feeling that my time will come one day. So actually 2 years later, in 2008, when financial crisis hit, beginning of then 2008, 2009, I still had this in my mind. And I mean, financial crisis, there was like insecurities everywhere, but I was on a secure job. Again, the job was secure, but my co-founders, my ex-colleagues, they were not there anymore. And I started feeling lonely and I started feeling bored. And then on incident, actually, I met 2 potential co-founders. And I was talking to them and I asked them, let's do something together, because we had one joint dream, because we worked in this area of payments. So we were all really passionate about payments. And then we decided that we want to rethink how invoice payments in Germany should work. And this was actually the birth of RatePay. So RatePay was born in the year of 2009 in the middle of financial crisis, where everybody said to us, you're totally crazy. How can you build a startup in times like this when there is like the world breaking together? Nobody wants to hear anything about fintech, or even the word was not there. But we made it, because I think we were so obsessed by what we wanted to do and a bit naive also that we can achieve this, that the Otto Group, they believed in us and they became our first investor. So this was then the beginning of a journey that was almost 12 years. It was a super, super roller coaster because it was constant ups and downs. We got a financial institutions license, so we had regulatory issues. We won really big customers. We scaled this company of being profitable. We sold it then later on to private equity, and it also became a unicorn. It had a unicorn evaluation in 2020. But the most difficult thing actually was this part where we split up in the founder team, because I suddenly was all by myself. And I said, I cannot do that by myself. I just don't have the skills. I need people around me, or I need somebody that helps me, because otherwise it will die. I can't do it. So I decided to take a co-founder, a co-CEO on board. And I think that was a very good decision. And it was not weakness or so, but for me, it was a great decision. It was the best decision I ever made, actually. And also the other factors why we survived this and why we made this journey was because we had a fantastic culture. We had a culture in our company that was just the foundation of, let's say, building innovation and doing innovation every day without talking about it. It was a culture of psychological safety where everybody was willing to speak up, where everybody was not afraid of making mistakes, and where everybody knew every voice is heard. Because that is really important. Because what we had to do, we had to evolve all the time. We had to rebuild the company. We had to find new products. We had to shut down things. We had to let people go. And we had to do so many difficult things, but it was all possible just to have, when you have these people that you can really trust and that you can also be very vulnerable with, that was super, super important. And the third factor actually that was really important was endurance, because it took us long. I mean, it took us years to really build this system working. It was high technology and it was real-time technology, and we had really difficult times with it, but we always invented ourselves. And then we have the new chapter, the first chapter of the book. We are now in the year of 2020. We had pandemic, so it was really strange that this always happened in crisis, but maybe it's the time of crisis where you sometimes think, okay, you have to do something and change things. And I have had my co-founder, Jens, I knew him since many years. And we talked about the industry a lot, and we shared one thought that we have to change the way small businesses finance themselves, because it was a very, very difficult situation. We saw that at RatePay because we saw a lot of them, but we could not build it within the company. And he also did work on something similar. So we had a really similar idea, and we thought, let's do it. We announced it, and then this Forbes moment happened. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, it is really strange and surreal when you see yourself on the cover of a magazine like this, and people called me and said, Miriam, oh my God, you're on the cover of this magazine. I felt a bit ashamed sometimes. I even put it away in the office that not everybody sees it, because we really had to do hard work, and I was not in a lifestyle environment. Yeah, this was really hard fintech. At that time, Banxa was still very young. Now it's 5 years older, and it's probably today, if you compare today with before, you say that it's 80% different. And that is good, because if you stand still as a startup and you don't develop, you die. My colleague, she always said, innovate or die. If you don't innovate, you will die. And that is really true. You need to have always a good product market fit. If this is not working anymore, you're dead. So you have to know your customer. You always have to be really, really close what the customers are thinking, how they're acting, and what is necessary. In order for this, you also need people that are close with the customers. And we see so many, let's say, companies that are failing at the moment because they did not innovate. And this is really a spirit, because when you have the spirit, you can transform anything. And you need the teams that are able to do that, because at the end, it's all about innovation and not standing still. That is so important. And as I said earlier, I mean, innovation is not something that you can train. As a CEO, you cannot say, so now we innovate. It's super important that we innovate. Innovation has to be part of your DNA. It has to be your feeling every day. When you get up, you have to find, okay, how can I make it better? How can I be excellent? How can I understand my customer? And I want to feel my customer breathe. So innovation starts with yourself as an inner mindset, as an attitude. And it's the inner mindset, actually, it's always the willingness, this inner mindset need to have, that you question yourself. Question yourself, no matter if it's on personal or on business level. But it's really, really important to do that. And also by this questioning by themselves is also, the next thing is that you have to take the courage, or have the courage to take bold decisions. Because not only questioning, I mean, then nothing happens. You have to take decisions and then actions. And if this doesn't happen, nothing will happen. But in order to take these bold decisions, I think it's also very, very important that you have the confidence that you will learn everything on your way. And that is also something about innovation, that we have to start doing it, because we don't know, we don't have the perfect plan. We have to learn it on our way and continuously evolve and make the product better. Because then I think you can really, if you understand this, that this is all about, you can really get through all the you can cope with all the challenges that come along. And I think you can also, you get a lot of drive, you get a lot of resilience to, let's say, go through the stress and also make these bold decisions, because there's often a lot of resistance against it. And you have to, let's say, cope with the resistance. And therefore, you need this. Yeah, and then this is what this title said, against all odds. But I think it's funny because it describes it really, really well. What is the against all odds? It's a struggling all the time, but it's also a struggling with a mindset. And we have this mindset and we have the passion for it. You can do anything. And this is really what I believe. But it all started actually with one question. So I end this with this question to you now. Yeah, to really think about this. So what would you do if you were truly free? Thank you.